So, well, who am I? I'm co-founder of WePlay, which is a cross-platform game engine specialized for 2D games, and it is built on Qt. We got selected as Qt technology partner last year, and by now we've reached more than 10,000 developers using WePlay, and there are several hundred games powered by Qt and WePlay in the app stores right now, a couple of them even having more than 1 million downloads. Usually you develop your games with WePlay with QML. So all you need for that is this import statement, import WePlay, and then you're all ready to set. And what this allows us to do is to use this rapid development approach of QML and build upon that. And what this gained us basically was this research survey that was going on last year by Research to Guidance, surveying more than 2,000 developers globally. And these developers ranked us as the #1 cross-platform tool in terms of easiness of learning, biggest time savings, and best support. So, and a lot of that, we have to be thankful for QML to achieve that. Because learning it is really easy, because QML and Qt Quick is easy to learn. So what we've also done a pretty good job in is to make it really easy to create the game that runs on multiple screens and screen sizes, so that you can use the same source code and then run your game on phones, tablets, as well as desktop PCs. And the interesting thing that happened recently, starting this year, was that developers of WePlay, using WePlay, started to develop not only games but also mobile applications with it, although we did not intentionally create it for that initially. So we've also used it internally for a couple of bigger client projects, for example, for Siemens or T-Mobile, Novartis, and made mobile applications built on with Qt for them. And similar to what we have done with the gaming side, we are now offering a new product called WePlay Apps that is the same for gaming. It is a mobile application development framework that simplifies mobile app creation with Qt. And what we've learned in building this framework, and also what we've learned in building several mobile applications, I'll now share with you. So what is responsive design actually? Responsive design is a design that gives the user a native user experience dependent on which device the user is currently using. So there's a different kind of user experience you want to provide if the user is on a smartphone than if he's on a tablet or on a PC. So for example, if you are running on a smartphone, you have a different kind of navigation. You also cannot show that much of a detail than you can with a tablet on the right-hand side. And what ideally you want to do is reduce your application logic. There is no platform-specific code in it. So you really want to reduce the parts that are specific to iOS or Android or any other platforms and just focus on the application logic. The same is if you are working on a new project. We usually recommend starting with QML and JavaScript first, because you're much faster to develop with it. If you're seeing you're having any performance issues later on, you can still then port it over to C++, as the integration between C++ and QML is quite easy. So how do you manage to have one source code and then run this across multiple screens? Well, a basic approach is to set the sizes of your items based on the height or width of your window. So in this example, you can see that the height of the rectangle, for example, is 30% of the parent height of the parent rectangle, which is like the window. And also the image on the bottom is like a percentage, like 80% of the gray rectangle that you can see there. So this is a very basic and simple approach, but you quickly run into issues with this. So as soon as you're changing, for example, from a portrait to landscape mode, then you will see that the button sizes or the text sizes, the image sizes just do not feel good anymore. So they're wasting far too much space to be like a native user experience. So there are a couple of advantages to it, mostly that it's very easy to implement and code. But for apps, for mobile apps that really feel well and feel like a native user experience, this is not the recommended approach. Who of you guys did use this kind of multiplication with parentage and things like this? Yes, I thought so. We did the same in the beginning, and for mobile apps, it failed. So this is an approach that works well for games, basically, because for games, it's not that bad if a button is a little bit bigger. It's more important to provide the same user experience across all platforms so that you can also compare the high scores, for example, that you can reach. But on mobile apps, that's a lot different. Also in games, you usually don't have support for portrait and landscape in one application. So, yeah, this is not the best approach. There's others. So there's a density-independent approach that you could use so that an item really has the same physical size across all devices and screens, no matter what screen resolution the device is running on. So in the Android world, this is already common as a density-independent units that you can use. There's also a similar approach to that on iOS. And we have copied that and used that in the vPlay apps framework, so that allows you to use density-independent measures in your applications. So if you have like this one unit of one density-independent unit that's coming from Android, that's on a 160 dot per inch screen, that's 1 pixel. So that would be like an iPhone 3. Whereas on an iPhone 4, which is double the resolution but same screen size, that's the double of the DPI that the screen has. So one DP there is 2 pixels. But for you as the application developer, that shouldn't make a difference. And this is what you can reach with this formula down there. So using the screen DPI value that you can calculate like this. So this is some calculations that you need for Android. It's also working on iOS and all the other platforms supported by Qt. And you can then use this calculation and provide a DP function that you can then use to define your sizes of your items. So a similar thing is true for text elements. So then in Qt, there's for the text element, there is point and pixel size that you can set. So the worst scenario that can do is to just set the plain pixel size to 12 pixels. This will then be very small on high resolution devices and very big on low resolution devices, so not a good idea. Second approach, you could use the font point size property, which is buggy, to say at least. It's not working well on mobile devices. And also on some desktop platforms it has problems, especially with high DPI and different user settings of the monitor. So it's also better to use, like, based on the screen DPI value that you already read for the DP function, provide an own function, which we call, and also this is from Android, SP function. So the difference to the DP function there is that there is a text scale property multiplied. This text scale property you can use, for example, to let the users change the text size in your application. So this is a best practice for UIs, that the users can change the size of the fonts. And also you can read out the system settings from Android, for example, or from iOS that the user have set in their phone-wide settings. So this is something that we already integrated into vPlay apps, and you can use that there already. You can also do it on your own. Another thing that's relevant for responsive design is dynamic image switching. The problem if you just provide one image is that it looks blurry on high resolution devices. And on the other hand, if you just take a high resolution image, that one is taking like heaps of memory that you don't really need on low resolution devices. So as a compromise between these two, it's better to load, depending on the DPI that your screen has, load the correct image for that one. The simple and bad approach would be this one. To add a property binding and say, okay, if I'm more than 320 dp, use the high-res version of my PNG, otherwise use the low-res version. This is like really messing up with the code, so you're mixing up image naming and things like this, so this is really bad. There is a better approach to this, and there's a new feature in Qt 5, which is called file selectors, which help you to do this. File selectors is something that you can set and which intercepts the URL of an image or any component that has a URL property to it, and intercepts this and adds another path to the front of it. So the way that we implemented this in vPlay apps is that a different file selector is chosen depending on the DPI that your screen has. So if the screen is above 320 dp, we are using the HD file selector. And what this means is if you have provided an plus HD folder with the same image file, then this one is used automatically and you don't have to change anything in code. So this is really convenient from an application logic point of view. You can also not add any HD images, and this will still work. It's then the low resolution image that is going to be used. And it's a nice and clean way to provide different sizes of images. And by setting the width and height to the DP again, you're making sure that it's the same physical size across devices. You could also use file selectors to define different style settings for iOS and Android. However, I do not really recommend it because the disadvantage with file selectors are that you cannot change them at runtime. So this makes it really hard to test the different settings on your desktop PC, and you really want to test it easily without having to deploy to the device every time. Also, the file selectors system in Qt is not that powerful like the one, for example, for Android. On Android, you could say, only show me this files if the smallest width exceeds 600 dp and things like this. So this does not exist in Qt file selectors yet. All right. So to summarize as a best practice, if you want to achieve the one thing from the top here, like a rectangle in an image, keep in mind to always use dp units, use sp for text, and use font.pixel size, not point size. And also for images, use width and height, and provide different sized images. So the fixed scale really only works with games, but not with mobile applications. So yeah, and if you remember, one tip from this talk is to never use just plain pixels. This will shoot in your back sometime sooner or later. All right, so there's more to then responsive design, and this is to provide a different view of your application depending on how big the screen size is. So this is not just about having the same size, but having a complete different layout that you're loading. So simple example would be on a smartphone you have like just a single page view, whereas on a tablet you can have a multi-pane layout, a master detail view. So I will now show you the source code, how to do this with vPlay apps. And this is on the slides. I'll now change over to Qt Creator. And this is basically all the code that you need. Just run this first, so you can see what it's all about. So what this application does is you have a scrollable list. You can then choose one of the elements. Then there's this detail view of this element, and then you can push other pages into this view, and then go back to the previous one. So there's a few things to consider here. One thing is on the top here, these buttons. These allow to change the simulation of different platforms at runtime while you're on desktop. This is really cool for testing. So if I want to change and see how this application looks like on iOS, I just switch to iOS on the top, and what you can see is that, for example, the list element and the navigation header changes depending on which platform I'm running on. So one detail here is, for example, the arrow in the list view is only visible on iOS but not on Android. Also, the scroll indicator here is behaving differently and looking differently if it's on iOS or Android. What you can also see here on iOS is that the navigation transition between these pages is different. So on iOS, you usually have a swipe back gesture navigation, where you can swipe your pages back and forth, whereas on Android, you have the animation, page transition coming from the bottom to the top. And the same is when you're moving it back. Yeah, so I'll show you the source code of this. So there's this root app element. You don't need to necessarily use this in your application, so you could also use just an application window or window component as a root component. But the app component has a lot of useful additional features. For example, there's a property in there that is saying, is this application running on a tablet or not? What is the screen size in centimeters and inches and things like that? So it's useful to edit. Then as a root element, you have a navigation stack. And in this navigation stack, there's just one list page in it. The list page has, as a model, 60 elements, which we just fill with this JavaScript object here, which is saying the text property shall have the item and the index number. So this is like just item 1, 2, 3. And what we then say is if an item is selected, we push a second component, the second page, to the navigation stack. This is the second component that we are using, and this is this detail page, which is not having a lot of it in it, just the item description, the title and the header, and the button here. So we're using a column for that. A page, again, as like the screen that we want to show. And if push another is pressed, we are then pushing this same page, the same detail page component to the stack again, with one addition that we are adding a sub prefix to the title. So as you can see here, if you're pushing, then the title here changes and also this changes. So yeah, and this is basically all you need. In a list page, this is automatically a list page automatically uses a simple row model that you can use for quick prototyping, like we did here. You can also set a detail text here or use an icon. So this helps you to get like something to show and prototype your UIs pretty quickly. And the second page is just a normal page. Also, as we have imported vPlay apps here, we have like in Qt Creator we get the normal documentation like you're used from other Qt Quick components. So just press somewhere, press F1, then you get the whole details about these components. Also about the navigation stack, for example. Yeah, and there's one really cool thing to the navigation stack as well. So when we start to change the screen size now and simulating a widescreen device like a tablet, for example, you can see what happens. Closed it. You can see that the layout is changed. So it's automatically changed to a multi-pane view, a master detail view. If I change this now again to iOS or Android, you can see that the detail pages here still have the same navigation, whereas I can change the first page on the left-hand side. And the really cool thing is, in your application, you don't have to define this anywhere. So this is by default, there's a split view property in navigation stack, which is by default set to true. And what this does is, if the screen size is bigger than 5 inches, then it switches to this master detail view, and you then get a very comfortable and transparent way of defining multiple pane layouts. Good. So up to the next step. Which is differences in Android and iOS. Yahoo! So there's plenty of them. One of them is navigation differences. So on Android, you usually have a navigation drawer that is coming in from the left, whereas on iOS, your navigation usually contains a tab controls on the bottom. So, and there's a lot more, like the page transitions that I've already shown you. The lists are behaving differently and looking differently. Dialogues are not the same, and a lot more. And so what we want to achieve now is with the same source code that we do not really want to care about what is the navigation paradigm on this platform. And that's what I'm showing you with this code. second example. So the second example just uses the content from the first demo that I've shown you now. This is this navstack split view component. And on top of that, wraps this up in a navigation item. And in the navigation component, there is this navigation item in it. And what this does is the following. So I'm now simulating on Windows. I'm having 2 tabs on the bottom here. Switching this to iOS stays the same. And you can see I can change the pages with tab controls. And now if I change into Android, you can see this navigation drawer on the top left here. And you can also slide it in from the left, like you would be doing it on Android, and select the different pages like this. So, and the way how this looks in code is like really simple. You have one navigation element, then a navigation item to the simple list. So this is the title saying simple list here and also simple list here. I've set an icon to it. So what we're doing in vPlay apps is that we provide a set of icons that you can often use in mobile apps. So this also helps for rapid prototyping. And the other page then looks like this. It's just a navigation stack in there. We have a simple page with just an app text component in it. And we do set the split view property to false there. So if you have a look now, and I'm changing the screen size, nothing happens. Whereas on the simple list, it's still a multi-pane master detail view. Yeah. So this is navigation. This is the code that I was using for implementing this platform changing. So you can access the current theme. You can change this theme then. And what I also did here is setting the UI scale, which makes it easier on desktop to simulate bigger font sizes and things like this. So for more complete demos, we can also have a look at the new vPlay apps showcases, which shows a couple of mobile Qt applications that we have done, which you can use in full source code. And this application is both in the app stores currently and also is available when you download the vPlay SDK. So the way this one looks is this. So you can select a couple of different applications you want to have a look at. This messaging app is basically similar to what the Facebook Messenger app, the native Facebook Messenger app looks like. There is also this master detail view in here. So if you're changing the screen size, you can see, okay, on the left-hand side I have this conversation overview, on the right-hand side messages list. There's also input in there. There's also the scrolling again there. There's reloading. There's also pull to refresh, another example here. And there's also different tabs on iOS, whereas on Android, you again have navigation drawer. And this application you can access with the full source code as part of the vPlay SDK, as well as all the other ones available here. So one really cool one is this one. It basically looks like the native Twitter client on iOS and Android. And what you can do here is browse the tweets that are available. So this is real data coming from the Twitter REST API. So you can have a look at how we hooked the Twitter REST API with the model view and the list page here. You can have a look at the source code there. And yeah, what is also pretty cool is this profile page here. So if you're going on any icon of the profile, what you will see is this nice animation on the right top. This is the same as animation as the guys on Twitter were using in their native Twitter app. And I bet they needed about 100 times of code that it took us in QML to do this. Yes, so yeah, you can have a look at the source code yourself, but it's really like the Facebook app is around 100 lines of code, the Twitter app complete is 800. And yeah, you can download this app from the Qt5 showcases. It's the name of the title in iOS App Store and Android Store. You can also download it with full source code at vplay.net/showcase app. Good. So to summarize the strength of Qt and vPlay apps is the strength of Qt are definitely the animations that you can do with Qt Quick and QML and the user interfaces that you can design rapidly. Also the very few lines of code that you need, and it's built on proof and tag, so it's in the backend there is C++ in there, there's a scene-graph renderer which is damn fast, and integration between existing C++ application logic and QML is also very easy. vPlay apps on top of that adds support for mobile platforms for iOS and Android and hides all the platform differences from US application developers. So there is about 30 components available in vPlay apps right now, and this is going to grow with every release cycle. So we release a new update every 2 to 4 weeks and add new features in there. Good. So I'm not sure you were pointing 5 minutes. It's a 50-minute talk, right?
Sorry?
It's a 50-minute talk.
All right, then.
Thanks, sir. Yeah. So up to the second part, which is how to increase user retention. So the tips that I'm showing you now are tips that we were using for our own apps, mobile apps, games, as well as what we have seen our clients and customers using in their applications. So number one tip that I can provide you to increase the user retention, which is meaning how often the users are coming back to your app, is adding push notifications. So there is 2 kinds of push notification plugins that we provide as part of the vPlay SDK. Number one is local notifications, and the second one is remote or server-triggered push notifications. That one is relying on Parse and the Parse SDK for iOS and Android. It's pretty simple to integrate. It's just one import line, and then you can use the notification item in QML, and then you get native push notifications on your mobile devices. So it's best to do like reminders for them when they should come back to the application or when something new or interesting happened in the app to bring the users back after initially installing it. So the notification plugins are just 2 of the available plugins in the vPlay SDK. So there's a lot more for in-app purchases, mobile ads, crash reports, and a lot of analytics plugins. So make sure to check these out in your mobile application next time. Second tip for improving the user retention is adding the possibility for your users to add content that is worth sharing and let them share this success moment, so to say, to the different multiple social networks that are there, like Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. So what is the hard thing, I would say, there is to think about what is the success moment in your game or application. So what is it that the user enjoys when opening and using your mobile application? Maybe after he bought something in a mobile app, then you can say, okay, great, you bought it, do you want to share this with others? And other things like this. However, the most powerful thing that you can add to your application or game is to add the possibility to add user-generated content into your mobile application or game. So there are a couple of examples that you could use that in your mobile application. For example, if you're having a mobile app where you can customize the look and feel of your mobile app, you could make this setting that the user then defined adjustable. So let the users adjust the colors in the application, and then share these configuration settings with all the other users of the application. Or if you have like a car configurator app and you have like the perfect color settings of your favorite car, let this setting share the user with all the other users. This is also very, very popular in gaming at the moment. So Nintendo has stepped up in this approach now, and they are providing a new game called Super Mario Maker, which basically allows you to create your own Super Mario levels and share these levels with all the other players of the game. And the cool thing is, we already have this in vPlay. So there's components for that you can change properties at runtime and make these settings easily shareable to all the other users of your game or application. And I'll quickly show you a demo of this looks like in a game that we did. And what I'm running here is a vPlay sample launcher, which is also part of the SDK. It's a desktop application that you can just start after installing the SDK. And what it does, it is an overview of all the demo applications within vPlay. So it makes it really easy to browse all the resources that we have and have a look at all the different demo games and example code. This is my level, what I'm making. So after I'm happy with that one, I can go back and publish it to all the other users, or I can even download all the other levels that other players and users have created. So I can have a look at the community levels. Okay, my battery is running out. And also this view of the levels that are available is a ready-made QML component that you can use and you can customize. Okay, do we have Wi-Fi here? Yeah, the way this looks like then is like this, and you can customize that and make it easy for your users to find the content and find new levels that are available. So this is really easy to do in code as well. So there's own components that allow this runtime dragging. There's own components where you can store all the level data. And there's own components that handle all this publishing and handle the connection with the backend on our side. There's a few more applications that you can try in the app stores. One of them is Squabby, or Stack and Friends is the one that I've shown you so far. So another tip that I have is adding gamification elements to your mobile application. So this is not restricted just to gaming, but it's also very useful for mobile applications. But think about how you can reward the users for coming back to your application. For example, give them some positive feedback when they're opening your application a couple of times, and make their progress visible and comparable with other players and users. So by adding leaderboards that you can see on the left-hand side and achievements to your application, you're really adding the more value for your users to coming back. And the way you can integrate this is also pretty easy. So there's a vPlay Game Network item that you can use, which has a defined set of achievements that you can provide, and you can just, you can just simulate a higher score, for example, with a report score function, and then there's a dedicated view which you can customize to your application. Yeah, what vPlay Game Network also does is that this sharing that I was mentioning before to Facebook and other social services is already included in our backend. So if you're using the report score function in your application, the high score or the achievement is not only updated to our backend services, but it is also distributed to Facebook, Google Play Game Services, or Game Center. So you can have the maximum reach of game services that you're using. A very brand new addition, this was just added to the latest vPlay release published last Friday, is a retention boss, you can say, because chat and multiplayer is really the king of all retention metrics that you can gain. So if you're having a look at the top grossing games in the app stores at the moment, or top grossing applications, number one is Clash of Clans or other games of Supercell that enable multiplayer gaming. So adding multiplayer to your games or any form of chat or multiplayer interaction to your mobile applications is really a key factor of driving more users back to your game. What we did is we added a QML component, a multiplayer component, that you can use just a normal rectangle element, but for multiplayer gaming and in-app chats. So there's a QML component that you can use for your mobile applications, which is a chat widget, basically, that you can add within your mobile application and let users communicate within your application, so without having to leave it to another. What it also does, the multiplayer edition, is matchmaking, so you can play against your friends very easily. And the cool thing is that it really is running on all supported platforms by Qt, so both on desktop as well as on mobile. And if the Wi-Fi is working now, I can show you a demo. No, it's not. Yeah, similar to the other samples that we provide, we also provide a turn-based game example in the vPlay SDK, which you can use as a basis for your next quiz game, your next Clash of Clans game, or just to have a look at how the chat implementation works. This is really just 100 lines of code and you're ready to integrate this. And the key tip to all of these retention tips is that you need some kind of way to measure what you're trying to improve. So ideally from day one, so the day that you're starting your application in the app stores, make sure to add any analytics service in there. The plugins that we provide are Google Analytics and Flurry. Google Analytics is running on all supported platforms by Qt, so also on desktop. And Flurry is running on iOS and Android only. No matter which one you choose, you can choose both of them concurrently as well. Make sure to add this, because this gives you valuable insights in which state and which screen of your applications the users quit. So this gives you then insights, okay, which part of the screens should I optimize and where should I start optimizing? So this is not only for mobile apps, but also really useful for desktop applications, basically. And the way that you can integrate this in QML is simple as well. So just add import vPlay plugins Google Analytics, use the Google Analytics item there, and with a single function call log screen or log event, you can track and analyze in Google Analytics dashboard the events that are going on in the application. To summarize this, there are several ways: push notifications, social integrations, and user-generated content you can use, but also gamification elements in your mobile applications and multiplayer and in-app chat. And do not forget to add analytics as soon as possible, because you're missing this data then if you just add it later on. Well, that was it. If you want to see more games or showcase applications, just head over to vplay.net/apps. Also, the vPlay Apps SDK is available there for free. And we're also there for 2 more hours at the Gimasi booth and have a lot of showcase games and mobile applications there to show you. Thanks. We have like 5 more minutes or so for questions, right?
A bit more even, yes. Anybody has a question? Yes.
How does it work with accessibility in the apps? So if you write a native iPhone app, then a blind person still can use it because they can just read the text. Does it work with QML also?
At the moment, not.
Anyone else? I do have a question then. You were talking about high DPI stuff and your functions, but then Qt does that as well.
It did not work the last time that I tried it, so at least not decently. So we've tried it on several Android devices, and on some of them it did not work correctly. So the hack that we provided there did work on all the devices we've tested so far, which is like 15 different models.
Okay, so you just disable the Qt thing and do it with your functions.
Exactly.
I mean, KDE, what we do is just use what Qt offers, except for Plasma maybe, and it seems to work fine. Okay. Another question.
What is also pretty cool is that it's the same sizing like you're used on Android, so you can use all the basic Android design guides and use the same DP and SP functions and values that they're using. So yeah, the Android design guide is one of the best ones how to do a proper mobile UIs. So in the references slide and the last one, you can check out the third link there.
In mobile development, you are switching between iOS and Android. So does it also account for the themes? For example, material design or any other themes which are specific to the platform? Yeah,
this is also then changeable. So and the cool thing is that you can really test this on desktop and have a look at that. So material design is not fully finished yet, but we hope to have it ready with the next release in 2 to 3 weeks.
All right then. Thank you very much, Christian.